So then I go to PCR-based testing. This is an extremely sensitive tool. It has a large dynamic range. Again, we're down below the 10 to the 3. We're down below 1,000 cells per mil. It can be done now at the winery. It used to be something where you would send it out because it was quite expensive to have the equipment. Now the equipment's less than $10,000 for the whole thing, and you can do it in 4 hours. So what this has allowed is for us to do work in the winery, take a sample, maybe a combined sample from barrels, send it to the lab, sanitize our equipment, go to another barrel lot, work that lot, send that sample to the lab. By the time we're done with this second lot, we have PCR going on the next morning. We know exactly what we're doing with the first barrel lot. Are we filtering it back to barrel, or are we going back to barrel without another treatment? Some minimal training is required, and there are people out there that can do that for you. So I compare PCR to culture like this. Hubble is a fantastic space telescope, but it has its challenges. It has its limits, right? Some of these galaxies, we can see a faint blur, but we know there's a galaxy there. With PCR, we have a little bit more specificity. The image is brighter, and we see that there are way more galaxies out there than we could originally find with plating. So that's how I sort of describe the difference there. Okay, I want to tell you a little story about this product that I was reading a magazine on food safety. My background was in food microbiology. I was looking at human pathogens, Listeria monocytogenes, Salmonella, E. coli. And I was looking through this magazine that came to my desk, and this advertisement was in there about this tool that combined PCR with vertical flow technology. So I thought, okay, it's a new spin on an old technology, but it uses PCR, so it's sensitive. I like that. And it had, I called these guys and I said, hey, if you can detect Listeria monocytogenes in sausage, then you should be able to detect Brettanomyces in wine or beer. And they hopped on a plane. They came out. They had never heard of Brettanomyces. They didn't know that it was an issue in the wine industry. We talked. And within 4 months, they had a prototype. Within 1 year, they were in the market. And we, as a company, have gone now 100% to this as our QC tool for checking for Brettanomyces and lactic acid bacteria and pediococcus as well. So this is basically the tool. You have an internal positive control that verifies that the reactions worked appropriately. And then you have the second line, which tells you presence, absence, and a bit of quantitation, but it's not very specific by eye. So on the left, you have the example of 100 cells per milliliter of Brettanomyces. It's a faint pink line, but it's a pink line. I've got a robber in my house. On the right-hand side, I've got 1,000 cells per mil. It's a bright red line. We set those limits for a specific reason. When we were doing plating and PCR comparisons at Jackson Family, we were talking with all of the winemakers, and we said, when do you see problems sort of popping up? And they said, well, when we get to 5,000 cells per mil, we can smell it. It's too late. We want to prevent the damage that happens before then. So if we found a population at 5,000 cells per mil, we would stop what we're doing, we would get rid of the work orders for the next day, and we would just focus on that. We'd get the cross-flow filter out, we would steam the barrels, and we would start talking about adding sulfur and changing the pH or something. The next one was when Brett populations are around 1,000 CFUs, that's when we start to see 4EP generated. So that would be a convenient action limit. So if it's below 1,000, we don't do much. If it's 500 cells per mil, we let it go. We're adding sulfur anyway when we work the barrel. We'll come back to it in 2 months, 3 months. But if it's in this action limit area, that's when we'll write a new work order, we'll come back to that lot, and we'll work those barrels. So that's how we came up with these limits that are currently in the kit.